All right, quick update time on my recent video on secular morality. And it seems like there's a really good discourse taking place under that video, which is really awesome. That's what we need, I think, a really good discussion on secular ethics that gets us away from people sort of saying, I'm sick of hearing about morality, because they don't feel like it goes anywhere, like there's any practical usage. And I think that's really important. So I haven't had a chance to go through all the comments. I'm not sure. It's going to take me some time. I've sort of answered a few people here and there just when I see something on Google Plus that's related to my video. But I apologize if I haven't gotten to nearly everyone. I wanted to clarify a couple of things real quick to help hopefully in the discussion. One is I use the terms moral relativism and subjective morality kind of interchangeably in my video, and I probably shouldn't have. Part of the reason I did is because, of course, I know what I'm talking about, right? But also because that was the title of the Stefan Molyneux video that I linked to. And so when I'm speaking of moral relativism, I think, first of all, I'm going to stop doing that for now. We'll focus on objective versus subjective morality. But I was speaking of sort of a metaethical descriptive use of the term. In other words, where many secularists will adhere to a subjective morality, and they sort of recognize that other people do as well. And there are some that take it a step further and say no one's morality is right or wrong. There's no clearly objective right or wrong. And I think actually a lot of people fit into that boat. If I said most or all secularists, I apologize. Of course, that's not the case. But a good number of secularists do believe that morality is subjective and that there actually is no objective right or wrong. I mean, that's really the definition of that, right? And so that goes across peoples and also across cultures. And if you want a good definition of moral relativism, it can be found out there. But that was the version of the term that I was sort of meaning to use. I don't think it much matters for practical purposes whether you're talking about the differences in morality or perceived morality or believed morality, whatever you want to say, between different peoples and different cultures. Because ultimately what we're talking about is a subjective standard, a varying standard, something that means something to that particular person or that group of people, versus an objective sort of outside of any one person's perception set of standards. So that's what I meant, but I'll try to keep it to subjective morality just so that we don't get bogged down in description stuff, definition stuff. The other thing is a couple of people have gone right to the ad hominems, which I wish you wouldn't do. We're supposed to be the rational ones. Can we keep it to the rational? Let's leave the personalities out of it. It doesn't matter who makes the argument. It's the argument. Also, with regards to ad hominem attacks, I've been accused of making an ad hominem by saying that people who adhere to the idea of subjective morality, but then raise their children as though there's an objective set of standards and even do so with threats of punishment, are being hypocritical. George, that's not an ad hominem attack. That's a description. That's a charge. In fact, I'll go a step further. That's a refutation, right? It's one thing to say, if you're critiquing somebody, or if you're having an argument or disagreement, or you're having a debate, and somebody makes an argument, and you say, well, that guy's batshit crazy. That's an ad hominem attack, of course, this is one of the ad hominems from the comment section of my last video. That's an ad hominem attack because the insinuation is disregard anything that guy says because he's batshit crazy. You could use all kinds of things. Well, that guy's an adulterer. You could throw all kinds of things around, whatever you want to do to discredit the person in order to discredit the argument. However, if someone makes an argument that morality is subjective, and then they go around acting as though they are following an objective set of ethics, they are being hypocritical. If I point that out, it's not only not an ad hominem attack, it's a refutation. They've refuted themselves. It's not an ad hominem. I'm not attempting to refute their argument by discrediting them as a person. I'm showing that they're not even following their own argument, okay? Please. And this sort of gets me to a couple of the comments that I've seen out there as well, where somebody had said, I can't really buy into objective morality because everything is subjective, which is self-refuting as well, right? Because the only way that you could expect to convey that message to me through your keyboard and your computer and through the internet and through my service provider and through my modem and router and to my computer and to my screen, and that I would read that and comprehend it to be what you meant it to be, is you're relying on a whole bunch of objective things there in order to relay that message. So clearly everything is not subjective. Yes, a good deal of our experience is subjective, but there are objective truths. And I'm afraid you can't make sense of your world if you don't accept that. I mean, I don't know. This, again, gets back to what I say the presuppositional apologists and the theists have a really, 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 really good point. That's the great part about this internal critique philosophical approach. Of course, it gets mangled and destroyed on YouTube with the Sci-10s and all those guys, but they have an excellent point. On what basis? What is your basis for saying something? That's an excellent point. And I don't... So you've got to accept that there are some objective truths here, or you've got no basis for anything. If everything is subjective, then you've got no basis for telling about anybody else, suggesting to someone else that they should follow your line of reasoning. So George had said something to me that, GeoAngle had said something in the comments section like, morality is subjective like love. Well, of course, those things don't equate. But once again, I would ask the question then, by whose authority, under by whose standard morality? Is it just by population? I mean, that's a tyranny of the majority. That's not supposed to work. I mean, even in most of you are in the United States, by your own country, you don't do that, right? That's why you have a democratic republic. It's not a democracy, because you've recognized the danger of the tyranny of the majority. So by whose standard morality? Someone else had said that morality is like a river that flows and it meanders. Okay. Is it ever going to meander back to slavery being accepted? And if not, why? Right? Why? This is another area where I think the theists actually have a really good point. You don't act that way. You don't live that way. You say that morality is subjective, but you don't behave that way. Hear me, please. You don't behave that way. And that's the point that Molyneux was making in his video, that I was trying to make as well, that people will say that, but they don't raise their children that way, which is hypocritical, which is a self-refuting action, right? So, very interesting, very, very interesting discussion, I think. But I would ask, once again, I'm going to make the plea, please, let's not jump on the ad hominem train. Let's deal with the arguments. And I think, personally, I think that's a very, very weak approach. It's a knee-jerk approach. That guy's batshit crazy. Disregard all. No. Address this, okay? Address the fact that you say that morality is subjective, but you do not act that way. You do not behave that way. You do not raise your children that way. If it's uncomfortable, I'm sorry. I mean, it's supposed to be a discussion. We're supposed to all be adults here, but you got to address that. Please address that. Please address the fact that you do not act that way. And if you're going to say that it's just by population, that, well, we vote, the majority votes, and so that's the morality du jour, I hope you're never in the minority, you know. I mean, that's the danger of that, right? That's why I think we have a need to uncover if there can be one that exists that's akin to mathematics and science, you know, an objective set of ethics. We need to do that, because that would be such a guiding light for everybody, and it would end, I think it would end a lot of conflict. I think it was Deep Ashtray that said, I missed a point as well, that when a society, sort of develops a set of laws, that becomes the objective morality. I can't buy into that, because by objective means outside of anyone's, right? Math is objective, but we don't have different maths in different regions, right? We don't vote different maths in, right? And so I'm not sure I can really buy into that. I think, once again, that's just moral relativism. So then again, by whose standard morality? How do you then tell another country that that murdering their daughters for trying to attempt to attend school is wrong? Well, no, that's their objective morality, because that's what they accept. Doesn't work, right? So I'm going to try and keep this one short as a little bit of a video update. I'm going to try over the next few days to get to some of the other comments and respond. This is probably where I should have gone a long time ago. I was chicken shit. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.